Some cities promise hope, and then there's Manila in 1975, a place where dreams don't just die, they rot in the gutters. In Lino Brocas, Maynila sa mga huko ng liwanag, we follow Julio Madiaga, a young man searching for his lost love in the belly of a city that feeds on desperation. But this is not just Julio's story. It's a story of labor exploitation, sexual violence, and how the city claws away of what makes us human. Today, we're revisiting this classic not just to admire its artistry, also to understand how Manila became the real villain of this story. Let me tell you the story. Julio Madiaga, a young man from Marinduque, arrives in 1970s Manila with a mission to find Ligaya Paraiso, the woman he loves who was taken to the city under the promise of education and a better life. But as he walks the bustling streets, especially the corner of Ongpin and Misericordia, where he often pauses, fixated on a particular building, Julio quickly realizes that Manila doesn't care about promises. To survive, Julio takes a job at a construction site. There, he befriends Atong, a fellow laborer, and learns the hard truths of city life: long hours, poor wages, and even poorer living conditions. It's a world where even a single misstep can mean death, as one of their coworkers dies in a workplace accident, dismissed as just another casualty in the machinery of capitalism. One day, while shopping with Atong in a crowded market, Julio spots a woman dressed in black and wearing sunglasses. She reminds him of Mrs. Cruz, the woman who took Ligaya from their province. He chases after her, but startles her into screaming, forcing him to flee before he can confirm her identity. The encounter plants a seed of both dread and clarity. Ligaya wasn't brought to Manila for school. She was trafficked. Julio continues to scrape by in the city, brushing shoulders with street kids, sex workers, and other survivors of the urban jungle. Eventually, fate reunites him with Paul, an old friend who offers him shelter. With Paul's help, Julio keeps searching, and finally he finds Ligaya. The reunion is heartbreaking. Ligaya tells Julio she's been kept against her will and now has a baby. They make a plan. They'll escape, go back home to Marinduque, and leave the nightmare behind. But on the day of their departure, Ligaya doesn't show up. Julio returns to Paul's house only to be met with devastating news. Ligaya is dead. The official story is that she fell down the stairs, but the bruises on her body says otherwise. Julio knows who's responsible. Atek, the man who rented Ligaya from Mrs. Cruz and imprisoned her. In a moment of rage and grief, Julio follows Atek and kills him. But the city doesn't let go easily. A mob forms, chasing Julio down like an animal. They corner him, beat him, and in the chaos, the very violence swallows Julio he once observed. The final image is one of tragic grace, a vision of Ligaya, bathed in light. The screen fades to white, then to the soft blue of the sky. An image of peace, or perhaps escape, in the only form Manila allowed him. Maynila sa mga huko ng liwanag is not just a love story or a tragedy. It's a sociological autopsy of urban life in 1970s Manila. The city isn't just a setting, it's the antagonist. Julio's journey from the peaceful rural province of Marinduque to the unforgiving maze of Manila mirrors the experiences of countless Filipinos drawn to the city by the promise of opportunity. But what they find is not prosperity, it's exploitation. The city offers work, but at the cost of back-breaking labor and dehumanization. It offers community, but only in the form of shared suffering. And then there's the theme of disappearance, not just physical, but psychological. Julio doesn't just lose Ligaya, he slowly loses himself. With each indignity, each death, each broken promise, his spirit dims. Finally, his final act of violence is not just revenge. It's a last desperate attempt to reclaim control in a system that erased his agency long ago. Ligaya's name means joy. Her fate, being trafficked, imprisoned, and killed, represents how the city devours even the most beautiful of hopes. Julio's surname, Madiaga, suggests endurance, and that's what the city tests most brutally. How much suffering a person can endure before something inside them finally breaks. The film also quietly exposes how society turns a blind eye to injustice. Julio is surrounded by people who have become numb, people who know the game is rigged but continue to play anyway. Whether it's the apathy of the mob or the cold resignation of his coworkers, we're reminded that survival often demands silence, even complicity. And then there's the ending. Julio, chased and beaten by a mob, dies facelessly, like countless nameless people the city has claimed before him. It's not just tragic, it's systemic. It's a final gut punch that tells us this story is not unique. It's happening again, right now, somewhere. Lino Broca's direction in Maynila is a masterclass in restraint and composition. His visual language is quiet, but it screams with intent. The film's cinematographer, Rodi Lacap, transforms the city into a living organism. Cramped, chaotic, and predatory. Manila is shot not with admiration, but with accusation. The streets feel like traps, the building like cages, the alleyways like veins of a sick, pulsing body. Most of the film is composed with natural lighting, allowing the grime and texture of the city to breathe. There's no stylization to romanticize poverty here. Instead, we get long observational takes that force us to sit with the discomfort, making the viewer just as complicit as the bystanders in Julio's story. One of the most powerful techniques Broca uses is the contrast between wide shots and tight close-ups. Wide shots emphasizes Julio's insignificance, dwarfed by the city's machinery. Close-ups, meanwhile, reveal his gradual unraveling, his hope flickering like a dying bulb. The camera is mostly handheld or static, rarely ever dramatic because the story doesn't need spectacle. The violence is quiet, the trauma is still, and that's what makes it hit harder. There's also a recurring use of windows, bars, and reflections, visual metaphors for Julio's entrapment and fractured identity. Even Ligaya is often framed behind doorways or shadows, emphasizing how her freedom is always out of reach, always conditional. One of the most chilling sequences is Ligaya's funeral. It's muted, observational, but there's a weight to every cut, every silence, every withheld reaction. Broca doesn't tell us what to feel. He makes us feel it anyway. And then in the final scene, Julio runs. We don't see a close up. We just see a man swallowed by a crowd, by a city, by history. And then the screen fades. Not to black, but to white, and then to pale sky blue. A visual purgatory, a cruel kind of peace. Maynila sa mga kuko ng liwanag doesn't end with closure. It ends with erasure. Julio is not just killed, he is consumed, swallowed by the very city that promised opportunity. The man who once stood in the sunlit fields of Marinduque, full of dreams, is reduced to a body lost in a crowd, indistinguishable from the millions who came before him. The film gives us no courtroom justice, no melodramatic payoff. There's no heroic last stand, just a man running, bleeding, then nothing. And yet that final shot, the screen fading not to black but to pale blue, almost feels cruel in its softness. As if Manila wants to forget what it's done. As if the sky could cover up everything that happened below it. Julio's story is not unique. That's the most painful part. He is every rural migrant. He is every worker abused and discarded. He is every nameless face behind construction sites, loading docks, and roadside stalls. In the end, Maynila isn't just a tragedy. It's a warning. Because when we build the city that feeds on its people, when we allow exploitation to be normal, when the powerful erase the powerless, what kind of city are we building? What kind of future are we chasing? Maybe Manila didn't just take Julio's life. Maybe it took his name, his face, his voice. So as the screen fades to blue, maybe the film is asking us, who else have we forgotten? And who's next?